Good evening, Manfred, and welcome to Design Dialogues hosted by Fublis. This is your host, Bhavya, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Manfred Yuen, partner at Groundwork Architects in Hong Kong. Just to give a brief introduction about your studio, Groundwork Architecture, founded in London in 2007, formally established in Hong Kong in 2011, is a design studio dedicated to creating socially driven architecture, urban design, and landscape projects. Co-partnered by Manfred Yuen, the studio embraces unglamorous architecture, prioritizing human-centric, context-sensitive, and sustainable solutions over conventional aesthetics. Their approach is rooted in narrative-driven design, where architecture serves the collective design while reflecting the essence of its sites. Welcome to the interview series, Manfred.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much for joining us. Just to give a brief review before starting the questions, I would like to inform you that this interview will be published on the website of Fublis. So sign up on the Fublis website and you'll get the access to watch this interview. So shall we proceed with the questions?
Absolutely.
Your studio Groundwork stands on the concept of unglamorous architecture. Could you share how this philosophy shares your design process and influences the way your studio approaches urban and architectural challenges?
Yeah, we're from Hong Kong, and we have a lot of good interiors, but we don't have a lot of land for good architecture. So it drives me to think about why and what is our function, whether we are simply here to serve real estate needs, therefore treating architecture as a commodity, or what our design effort may contribute to the greater good. So a lot of that are not glamorous per se. We spend a lot of the energy on the places like parks, places like toilets, and places like schools. They're not here to celebrate architectural marvels. So I think that's the root of it. But we move along this trajectory by introducing social responsibilities and social engagements design methods to our work. So from 2011, when I was back from the UK, actually Vienna at the time, I was still working for, I used to work for Coop in Austria. So when I moved back to Hong Kong, and we pushed at that for around 3 years and creating some interesting works, including the Hawker Reload project, where we saved the Hong Kong's market, uh, which forms a big part of our culture in Asia. I'm so sure you're in India. This is a big part of your life. Yeah, so we pushed it for a while. Then we were immediately faced with the glamorous architecture, where people did approach us for branding solutions and branded space, and that's what I'm also quite comfortable working with my branding background. My first job is not an architect. I was an interior designer working for Pentagram in London, which is a brand building company, probably one of the best in the world. So I have this polarized view of what things should be. Now we work on the glamorous side. Glamour, by and large, are what I mean, serving the aesthetics, right? Serving the public with beauty. And we have to make a decision. It's a tough choice right now.
Amazing, amazing. That's fabulous. So moving on to one of my favorite project of yours, the Golden Apple Kindergarten. So this project beautifully combines functionality with playful aesthetics. So how did you approach designing a space that caters to the educational, emotional, and development needs of the young children while ensuring a visually stimulating and a safe environment for them?
Well, you talk about the King's Kindergarten, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that is a an evolution of what we believed in, the unglamorous side. We spent a lot of time interviewing children, working with the community to form the Hong Kong's playgrounds policy. So I was writing that with my partner for the Hong Kong government from 2017 to 2019. Somehow they thought that I'm an expert with kids, and in fact, I wasn't, but I do know a bit about kids. And the Shenzhen government approached me to give a few talks, and I think that drawn some traction on within the Shenzhen kindergarten community. And I got referred by an local architect to work on the interior. But it is not just an interior project. It's everything really, because the architecture, which was an office building, is a bare shell basically. So we have a lot of freedom in introducing new moves. So first move, which I think you will find it very difficult to understand, is that in China, the concept of kindergarten is a safe haven. So it shouldn't be the boundary between outdoor and indoor should be quite clear. But we broke that boundary and we introduced a courtyard space where it allows the inside and outside to be amalgamated. So the birds can come in, the kids can play with the wind, the sun, the rain, and all the walls are not straight. They are all curved, so the children can project their imagination on that space, which is fluidic. The center of all the kindergarten that we design are ideally should be library. I think systematic studying instead of fragmented studying is important. So we want to inoculate the habit of reading that forms the neonics of every school that we designed. And none of our research have proven that children likes color. So we make everything very minimal, and we replaced it windows and doors with geometries like circles and triangles and making employing the most kind of fundamental geometry to create the space. So with all that in mind, we juggled it a bit. The curved walls, the minimalism, and the employment of the natural material. So our rooms are wood. They are the natural color. And yeah, so it's really a symphony of various parameters that we try to explore, and also some limitations as well, right? Like because the site is a neighborhood, it has to be quite quiet. So all the tonality of those kind of Disneyland vocabulary are all straight. We did the branding of the company of the school as well. So we're a brand builder. We did a little rabbit, and we did signages. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
So, talking about the same project, what were the key challenges that you faced in adapting the design to the specific site and the urban context of Chengdu? And how did these challenges shape the final design outcome?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, you are talking about urbanism.
Basically, the challenges you have faced during the construction process or maybe the designing process in terms of the site.
Yeah, it's really a easy site because it's an existing building that has a lot of headroom. So every floor is like 5 meters, 5.2, which is very generous. So we were flirting with the idea of having mezzanines. Regulation doesn't allow you to do that. That's what we call the GFA intrusion. That's illegal structures. So we have to suppress the headroom by either force ceiling, which is stupid. Why waste good space? So instead, what we have done is to create a chandelier pendant lighting datum that allow the space to be visually set at the 2.4 meter. So when you're a kid, you actually saw those lights, and it is more friendly than overwhelming than a 4.5 meter headroom. So I think that's the only challenge is how to deal with those access space. But apart from that, I think it's the budget. Our client is very generous, but I don't think money is finite. I don't think we should think like that. So we actually spent a lot of effort cutting the costs and trying to dedicate that in the right space. So, but everything's finely crafted. We got sink faucets that are like 2,000 RMB per head, which is quite luxurious. It's an international school, so we allowed to spend a bit more. The budget isn't that of a problem. We just got to juggle it a bit. Environmental wise, all the roof are photovoltaic, so we almost generated 15% of our energy from photovoltaics. So that's great. Yeah. So by the way, it's called a King's Kindergarten. It's not good enough. But that's the nickname of it.
The kindergarten design integrates natural materials and a very strong connection to outdoor spaces. Could you elaborate on how sustainability influenced the choice of materials and the overall design approach for this project?
It has to be natural because they what we call a Montessori teaching environment. So it advocates the real material to be touched it by kids. So it's quite easy choice is to having clad in wood. When we get out to the outside, we want real sand, we want grass, but it's very difficult in China. It rains a lot, so the maintenance is very challenging. So we immediately have to use EPDM, which is the rubbery material. But we not only cladded the outdoor landscape with that, we even cut the indoor with that. So the indoor and outdoor have the same material throughout. So I think the material are quite easy. One the material that we used it quite cleverly is the sun. The sun is cheap. It's free. It allows we allow the space to be rendered by shadow and light. So and our walls are all white, so the shadow will interplay on the walls and on the ground. It's pretty easy to imagine, but it is something that I love to do for a lot of my projects.
So I've read a lot about your firm and the type of work you do, and I have gone through some of your work, and that one of the key factors that your project are influenced by the fact that architecture, city, and landscape form one body. Could you elaborate on how this integrated approach impacts the design outcomes of your urban projects, particularly in dense and rapidly changing cities like Shenzhen and Hong Kong?
Yeah, it's very good question because Hong Kong and Shenzhen are both metropolitans. So our job is not to integrate the wild into the urban context. In fact, is to create our landscape within the urban context. Is kind of different from other more less dense places on Earth, where the building is immediately sitting on a green or some sort of a land. We have to build within a concrete jungle. So the challenge is to insert parks and urban interventions, urban facilities inside of the building. Sorry, inside of city. So sometimes even in the building. So I think our work has been dealing a lot with that. Is to create these pocket parks within uh, the urban context. But I think our insertion is still very brutal. It's very not very graceful. We pick something which is like a piece of Lego, we place it there, and everything will come. So I think this is something we can't lie to ourselves. This is an approach, and we make it very clear, right? So some of the newest park in Hong Kong, even the kindergarten you've seen, they are like a piece of Lego plugged into the urban context, but it has a lot of green elements in it, or they're basically for elderly and for kids. So I think the synthesis is really about the plug-in, but not so much about the harmony. Yeah, it's very abrupt. It's very brutal. It's not conventionally nice, but we're limited by the context. But I would like to work in India and see what how different would it be, you know?
Of course, you should definitely come to India, and I think you like the food also here. It's kind of different from
You
some
should bring me
Chinese
around.
food, but yeah.
I don't like Chinese food. I like Indian food.
Tried Indian food?
Of course, it's like the national dish in Britain.
Wow, amazing. I didn't know that. But definitely when you come to India, you should try some good Indian food, like the spiciest ones.
We had is like what you had in Chinatown in India and in Mumbai. Probably not the best ones, but they call it Chinese. Yeah, it was same.
Okay. Of course. You should definitely come to India. I think you'll like it. So moving on to the next project of yours, the whale. Could you elaborate on the inspiration behind the sinuses and fabric-like forms of that project and how traditional Chinese landscape paintings influence this design?
I think to be quite, let's get back to the glamorous and unglamorous side. Well, I was still the unglamorous side for the social aspect for of architecture for a while. Now we're moving to the glamorous side. This is probably one of the pinnacles of so-called the glamorous architecture interior-wise, because we are asked to spend money just on an aesthetic move. So I create this atrium within a building simply just to showcase how grand the lobby should be. And instead of a very, very big vertical wall, I create this strip of like a piece of cloth that hangs down, but you can't have a real piece of cloth that long. So we used what we call a reinforced glass reinforced gypsum, which is very heavy, very sturdy, and they're very expensive to mold. And we call it the veil. It looks light, but it's actually very heavy. And I think a lot of the Chinese philosophy involves in discovery. So if you go into Chinese building, you have to imminently going through layers of courtyards, right? So you go in for some very dark place and then get out very bright, get out again, very light, dark, get out very bright. So this succession of and volleys of interplay between lights and shadow will reinforce your liking how much you like this place, right? It's really this interplay that solidified your experience for the space. And for this project, it's the same, but we did it vertically. So you get into this view, it's very dark. You get out again, very bright. You get in dark, get out very bright. So and you're just transgressing through this view, and it enriches your spatial experience. Yeah. So this is how we tried it, and to when we achieved this limited level of success, I think a lot of people do get that when they went in, and the feedback was very, very positive.
So, what has been the response from the local community to this project, and how do you envision this space contributing to the social fabric of the Shenzhen city?
Oh well, it won't. To be frank, this place is a very secluded clubhouse-ish, uh, show a self center slash clubhouse for our clients and for our client to greet other clients and for people who want to buy real estates around there. So it's in fact anything but in a social meltpot. It should be secluded. And this is why we want to ensure our visitors have the best experience spatially, aesthetically, and service-wise. I can't deal with the service part. It's not my job. Um, but I think whoever went in say, well, they had a good time. And when you look from a distance, at the in Shenzhen, you when you drive, you will see this plane. You kind of not bad because it glows at night. It's very beautiful at night. That's not one of what we want to do. Or the light are projected on the view, and it looks like a piece of fabric that's just slightly hung in the middle of Shenzhen. And I think a lot of people found that quite amazing. So yeah, they like it as a jewel.
So, groundwork focuses on this term called narrative architecture and crafting experiences through design. Could you share how storytelling informs the creative process and brings depth to the projects that you undertake?
Every project is a story. There is a story of building it. There's also a story that you can experience, just like any films. But it's very difficult to articulate. I'll give you an example. If I go to a guest, if I'm a guest at your house or anyone's house, we will be led right into the space through a foyer, for a garden, then through your living room, then we have the dinner, and we have tea, and then we go to the backyard to have a cigar, and then a few drinks, and then we bugger off. We experience different portals of spaces. You're greeted differently, and it's a story. It's just like a book. Right, and some better than the others. Some chapters are better than the others. But this is how I perceived it architecture. So what you mentioned, the Kingskin Garden, that is a hierarchy of spaces. You get in, you arrive at a certain foyer, then you get to the library, then you get up, then you go into the classrooms. So is the view. You get out, you get in, you get out, you get in, and then there's a climax. Wow, and then you get out. This is how I'm trained. I'm a graduate from a very traditional school, Cambridge University. So it is really old school. It's a good name, but it's very traditional, and that's just how we're taught.
Perfect. So, mentioning another phenomenal project of yours, the Wallflower Music Hall. So, what was the core design philosophy behind that project, and how did you ensure it reflected the educational and cultural values of the Alliance Primary School?
Again, it's the glamour side that the client has this sort of money to spend on is a private school, on a music hall that simply just groom children to play music. It's very important for the school that the children are excelling in music because if you're a good musician, you won't be a bad person. I mean that's how they believe in, and I believe that too. I mean, so music is about aesthetics, it's about connection with the world, our inner world, and it's about collaboration because you got to collaborate, and it's about the tranquility, right? So I think it's very valued by Alliance Primary School, which is a Christian school. So we were hired because of what we've done before, our experience with kids, and our quite flamboyant vision of architectural form, right? What you see in our work as an urban intervention are actually quite bold. It's like a spaceship landed in middle of nowhere in a bit at a courtyard of a school. So I think that they quite like. But the response of this odd form is straightly against the odds with this constraint, because we only got this little very tiny pocket space, which is around 150 square meter. It's tiny for us to land a music hall there. So it will this new extension will be very, very close to the existing school. So you'll be looking like that, looking at this massive, gigantic container in front of you, right? So in order to make this this to delineate this boundary, this sharp edge, we curved it our building so that we have organic shape. We lifted it up. Even the belly of the building is also quite organically shaped and liberating a floor for the playground. So yeah, so we tried to create this kind of very, very interesting organic shape that that really can blur the boundary between the old building and the new. So the tension between the two will not only be about the physical tension, but it will be mental tension. Yes, it's oppressive, but it's nice, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we can't change the situation, but let's make the situation nice. Yeah, so the sea is a very kind of interesting, flamboyant, spaceship line of building in the middle of heart of Hong Kong.
So, going ahead to the last question for the day, reflecting on your journey, what would you say has been one of the most rewarding aspects of pursuing architecture that prioritizes humanity and the collective experience? And how do you envision the role of architecture evolving to address the challenges of the future?
Well, I think we play a less of a I mean we're playing much lighter role in the society because a lot of architects are now turning into developers and they work interior designers. They're not there's the quite popular. It's now getting less popular. There's no much so much for you to build. But I look at it as an opportunity because I think a lot of people who are trained with architecture back education becomes quite good people. Yeah, they are problem solvers. They have style. They have interest in humanity. They are cultured, right? They have a good heart. They are mostly quite beautiful and handsome, and they make good people. So whatever they do, they also good organizers. So whatever they do, they will somehow be instrumental to some organizations. So I think the training itself has no problem. I think the real problem is how we are functioning as the master builder versus just the aesthetic designer who can paint beautiful painting. And our role is therefore being jeopardized by AI. So we have to get back to the master builder role. We know the cost, we know the structure, we know the material, we understand how people interact with it. We're not bored by the what we call the mechanical and electrical appliances. We got to get back to that. Then we become valuable again. But we were like that. But now we have to swing back to that. And I think this process will weed out a lot of the practitioners who are not ready for it. Yeah. So I think we're at the middle of this process right now. And I think that will be, I think the school, the education system will have to respond to that too. Whether they're training just simple people who can paint beautiful painting or beautiful models, but doesn't know how to build, right? Or swing it back to master builders. I'm definitely seeing that tendency.
So, Manfred, that was the last question for the day. It was lovely to have you here. And thank you so much for giving your precious time. It was a pleasure to have you here. And don't forget to sign up on the Fublis website. Thank you so much.